the one that we have seen or read in the news is only a tip of an iceberg.
You have eyes and ears everywhere.
Get to go to Malaysia, for example, that's a sign of success.
One's got gain, the other one is more of like, I'm being exploited. Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Headlines, the go-to space for the top stories that made the headlines and more. I'm Amalina Kamal.
And I'm Alina Koshi.
Today we're dismantling a particular case that has sent shockwaves across the country. The uncovering and crackdown of a notorious migrant smuggling network allegedly run by a Malaysian known as Mat Sero. Now, for months, this particular syndicate had operated covertly, moving undocumented migrants from the Thai-Kelantan border to Klang Valley.
So they use a combination of sophisticated convoys, local transporters, and secret routes through rural terrain, charging migrants hundreds of ringgit per person. So the network reportedly ran weekly for at least 6 months, before Immigration Department operatives intercepted a convoy in Kota Baru, making multiple arrests and seizing vehicles and communication devices.
Now, while this particular enforcement success is notable, this case actually exposes a larger issue within the Malaysian context, right, Elena? Because if we just zero in on this particular case alone, that's a bit of an statement, because migrant smuggling is nothing new. Issues of human trafficking, vulnerabilities of migrants, as well as the transborder crime that has happened today has, gone for so long.
I mean, I can't feel a little bit of a deja vu because we've had this issue. It has come into our headlines. We've uncovered a lot of things pertaining to migrant smuggling, and now again it's back.
It's back, and it's back under this particular spotlight because per migrant under this Mat Sero syndicate, they charge about 400 to 500 ringgit per person, and let's say if the convoy brings about 10 to 15, that's like thousands of monetary sort of value being leaked here. And it does raise a pressing question about border security, cross-border cooperation. We share our borders with Thailand, one of it, as well as the social and psychological toll that migrants actually face, especially when enduring such a journey. Of course, for this, we are joined by Dr. Ahmad El-Muhammadi, a specialist in counterterrorism and transnational crime, who'll provide insight on enforcement, security gaps, as well as systemic vulnerabilities. Welcome, Doctor, to the show.
Yes, thank you very much.
Doctor, just for our audience knowledge, how long have you actually been in this particular field, actually looking at transborder crime and looking at human smuggling as a case here?
I would say more than 10 years as a researcher, and as a student of security studies, I think another 8 years. So I spent quite some time inside out of the issues. It is quite interesting to see from both sides, inside, I mean, as a field of research and also on the field.
Right. And when you do your research itself, right, do you identify, the factors that helps to kind of like push this particular syndication to be like worse than before?
Because it's alarmingly persistent. It's not just systematic, but it's very persistent. So what are the push factors that allow for this to happen?
And things like this go under the radar.
Yeah.
I would say the issue of human trafficking is one of the most interesting issue that I used to research about. I would say the one that we have seen or read in the news is only a tip of an iceberg. It's a small thing that we can see, and below that there are bigger issues, bigger problem, bigger challenges that we can find actually. It is not just that. I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate those people who conducted this operation. I think it was a successful operation, and it's exposed a big problem that our country is facing. And it's become very difficult to be eradicated, to be dealt with. As you said, it's a kind of deja vu. You have seen this happening in Wan Klian and so on, and this happened again, just like, hey, it doesn't stop. What's going on here? Well, it doesn't stop. It doesn't stop. It's because I would say human trafficking is not a new issue. It has been with us 1,000 years.
And it's surprisingly, I mean, I wouldn't say surprisingly, but it is lucrative. I mean, considering that they charge
Exactly.
each migrant a certain amount of money. In this case, of course, it was a few hundred ringgit, but, we're not talking about just this case alone.
Yes.
Yeah.
There is an economic of slavery before that we read in the history, and it's persistently going on from that point of view. I remember in the Hammurabi Code, many 1,000 years ago, mentioned about the problem of human trafficking. And we have that problem. And another thing, Malaysia is not the only country that is facing this problem.
Yeah.
Most powerful country on earth, United States, having everything, technology, facilities, human resource training, everything, still facing human trafficking problem, neighboring countries. But what amazed me in this particular case is the sophistication of the operation. We would say that our intelligence is very smart to detect their movement and operation. They have equally counterintelligence capabilities to do the same thing. That's why they're able to conduct this kind of operation.
Yeah, but when they conduct this kind of operation, obviously they can't just do the crackdown almost immediately, right? They have to detect it after months of surveillance first, right? But
Okay.
in that particular context, do you think that actually, because then when you do longer surveillance, more people get exploited. So where do you draw the line? Where do you come in? When's the best time? In migrant smuggling itself or human trafficking itself, what's the scenario like?
Okay. Let me go back to the sophistication of the operation. Mat Sero is the group that is in question right now. Mat Sero is not one individual; it's a syndicate. It actually, if you go to Kelantan and you say Mat Sero is a kind of people. It's a profession.
It's like along, is it?
It's a kind of along, yeah, along or transporter basically, the one who transport people. That is Mat Sero. So anybody can be one. So they have one mastermind, and the operative, the OP. They have a lot of operative around. They recruits people who want to work, whoever on the border side. So they have a lot of people who want to do this kind of job because the pay is good. The pay says, for example, if you be the eyes and ears for them, 50 ringgit per information, and if you manage to transport people, put them in the car, 150 per head. And, that's why the pay is like, 500, 600 per person? Yeah, every stage of the operation need to be paid. And they have a counterintelligence capabilities, meaning that they will put their people in the front of the police station. Let's say there is this stall in the front of the police station. They put one person there. They spot there is a massive presence of the police force. There must be an operation. And there wouldn't be any operation during that day or during that period. Right. So you see, that's kind of operation or capability that they have.
So they operate like special branches.
Exactly.
But the thing is, that means to say when the police is doing any investigation, it has to be extremely covert and below the radar, so that things like this, because you have eyes and ears everywhere. So it must be pretty challenging for...
Okay. Now let us talk about the capabilities or the manpower that the police has. If you talk about the IPD level, like the local police, they are the frontliners, I would say. Let's say the villagers reported them that there are some kind of foreigners present in the locality. Who will respond first? The IPD. The IPD level, do they have the capability of intelligence, manpower to do, and you have to remember they also have the eyes and ears. This Mat Sero, they also have the eyes and ears everywhere. And they conducted operation, at a certain time, actually. They have a time frame. For example, the usual operation would be between 8 to 11 p.m.
Nighttime lah.
Nighttime, between 3 to 6 a.m. The people there has already gone to bed, and that's when the time they're going to conduct an operation. And they have so we are talking about the capabilities of the police force on the ground, especially of the local authorities to act based on the tips and intelligence that they receive in the real time. You cannot wait until tomorrow. So they do not have this kind of capability. Not only that, manpower and the technical capabilities to detect. They have this at the, for example, IPK level, maybe at the Bukit Aman level. They do have this kind
But
of
not
capability.
in the township or small.
No,
Sort of.
exactly.
yeah,
So that's
yeah,
the
yeah.
challenge also.
So that is like some of the systemic gaps that I think maybe you observe because, like, for example, terrain challenges, limited surveillance,
Yeah.
you know, weak intelligence flow. So what are, in your view, what are the systemic gaps aside from, personnel issues and, acting on tips in real time? What are some of the other systemic gaps that you think?
I think, and what I observe is the porous border. It's very difficult to control. It's very difficult to police.
Do you think the Kelantan-Thai border is that?
Yes.
Okay.
How much manpower and resources that you want to invest to protect the border? That's the question.
Yeah, I mean earlier out of the show you did mention about we have posts, but a post is able.
Yeah. How many of them?
I mean, unless you're like Trump and you want to build a wall, lah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that would be a
exactly.
bit too extreme, right?
That's too extreme. If you want to build out, that's why actually the logic of the Trump's wall is that it's too long, very difficult to control. You cannot put police everywhere and along the 300, 600 kilometers of border. It's a very big resources needed, money, surveillance, and to protect the border, you have to watch 24/7. Who is going to do that really?
Right, yeah, it's a labor-intensive.
Intensive.
Very labor intensive.
Yeah, nobody is able to kind of be a.
Yeah.
But you would think that they will integrate like AI surveillance or something that's more, future forward, rather than just.
I think right now the government is gearing towards that. I mean, there is a research being conducted at this point to equip border protection agency with that kind of capabilities, but only recently and at a certain area or places. In the context of the northern border, between Thailand and Malaysia, so we have Kedah, Perlis, and Kelantan there. It's quite long stretch of borders, very porous, very hilly, and what make them very difficult to be detected is because they travel by sea, by water. And they will, let's say, they move from one location outside the country. They will put them somewhere in certain island, and when the line is clear, when there is no security is up, they will move during a certain time. And they have a lot of jetties there, and jetties. Who cares about jetties? We don't put the police on the jetties. People can just come and go. You can just come
Especially
in.
during nighttime, right?
Exactly,
Because
during
the
the
high tides or whatever. But that's the thing. These syndicates, they don't care about what kind of weather you're in, whatever. The jalan. The coast is clear in that sense, right?
I mean, there were recent boats that were capsized
Yeah,
also.
off
and-
Langkawi.
Off Langkawi and
Yeah.
things like that.
Yeah.
When you talk about the border and how difficult it is for police to monitor, I mean, this leaves the northern border maybe more vulnerable to a lot of exploitation by other transnational criminal groups, right? Including drug syndicates, extremist elements. So what are your thoughts on that?
Oh, definitely. There is no doubt whenever the border is so porous, very difficult to police, you can expect many kind of dangerous element which be coming through that. Anyway, because it's too long, nobody take care of that. And they came actually by small group of number 5, 10 people, and they just mingle together with the locals, and they just go about their life. And they also exploit the legitimate or the people in that place. They just get along with them, and and then they use a very specific type of car, a locally used car. Like everybody's using this. So who is going to see there is something strange? So what I can see right now is a very highly professional, well organized group by Mat Sero. But I think with with the right intelligence, with the right information, we can do that actually. We can do that. But how much resources that we want to put in that?
Right now.
Efforts.
At
Right now.
the moment,
That's the
right?
question, yes.
I mean, okay, just to kind of bring back to in terms of like how much leakage. When I say leakage, I do not want to just like, you know, just diminish this particular situation to dollars and cents. But at the end of the day, that's how our politicians think, right?
Yeah.
the leakage at the moment, especially for this year alone, when it comes to human trafficking and migrant smuggling. So 2025, we saw about up to 10 major crackdowns. Apart from Mat Sero, we had the recent one in November, Pade Aja, which apparently smuggled like ungazetted Indonesian immigrants from to Kuala Selangor, and fees charged are up between 1,500 to 2,100 ringgit.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah, and get this, the estimated illicit profit from this alone is about 500,000.
Oh, yes.
Oh gosh, and then that's just one, and then we've got the sea route migrant smuggling attempt, which is fought by our Coast Guard, our MMEA, and then we've got the gang Roni. The smuggling ring busted in Setapa. Apparently, it's some agents were actually caretakers and others were migrants. This one allegedly advertised services on social media. So they've penetrated social media. They've used the algorithm to get people on them to use their service.
Yes.
I mean, people like you and I might have gone through. I mean, it must have passed our feet, but kita macam tak buat apa-apa, right? Kita tak tahu.
We didn't even realize that.
Yeah, and then a lot of others. If I can just, if I read this out, it's like never ending. And this is just this year alone, okay?
That's right.
So which begs the question: how can we actually enforce better interagency collaboration and not just like push for the police to do something, for the border control to do something, for MMEA to do something? How can they work better together?
Well, I would say number one is the human trafficking is a very lucrative business. You can be an instant millionaire if you involve or engage in this kind of business very fast. I've seen people in Kelantan, for example, become extremely wealthy because of this kind of activities suddenly. And as you said, you rightly say that collaboration is needed. But against the question to what extent that the political will is there to put a team together and to act on the real-time intelligence. Because the moment they pass through the border is 5 to 10 minutes. Can you act based on that? You cannot wait, for example, people from the center to come down over there and conduct the operation. The people is already gone by that time. By the time that you arrive at the border, it's already finished.
Do you think in this particular case, community policing should be put to forth?
Exactly. Excellent idea. That exactly what they did. That exactly what Mat Sero did. They exploited the eyes and ears, the ops. The term they use is OP, the operative. The operative is the technical term. In intelligent parlance, it refers to the people who provide information, the tips off. The line is clear. They're going to say. Then they're going to bring in how many minutes? 5 to 10 minutes.
But also, I think it's important that inter-country intelligence collaborations between, in this case, between Thailand and Malaysia, should that be also something that we need to strengthen or further look into? Because intelligence over at one side, because of course, obviously they're coming from one side of the country to the next. And I'm sure Thai intelligence as well as Malaysian intelligence, I'm sure there's some collaboration to this point.
Two challenges here. Are you willing to do it? What demotivates you from doing it? So, I don't think, to put it more bluntly, I don't think that people are deeply interested to do it, based on what I see, at least.
The monetary gains.
Because now the demotivating factor, you don't have to do it because somebody is going to get paid a certain amount of money. You forget about it. You just focus on something else.
But why are countries, demotivated or not interested in stepping up their game in this? Like, for example, in this particular case, why do you think that's? Security
priorities. We have priorities somewhere else. We have priorities in crimes. We have priorities elsewhere, not in human trafficking. So if you don't have priorities, a priority is invested elsewhere, then there is no manpower, there is no training, there is no human resources being put in that. So that's the biggest issue. Meaning that the people on the ground, I'm talking about the frontliners, like in the IPD, for example. They have people there who is willing to do the work, but they don't have tools and resources to do it. Just like you want to cook, but you don't have tools. Can you do it? You cannot do it. You need tools. You have people, yes, but well, if you have in IPD level, how many people really there working in one police station? 20, 16? Let's say, hey, we got a people like 30 people I saw like they're moving around my house here. Come, how many they can send? 10, 15, and who's going to take care of the police station? Are they going to wait from the, let's say, IPK level or from... So that's the question. So I think a special task need to be put together if you really want to solve this problem. You really need a task force. Interagency collaboration, resources with the technical capabilities, trainings, knowledge about the area, about the terrain. Only then you can solve the problem.
Do you think with Datuk Shuhaili now being made the, head of the MCBA, the Border Control Agency, something will be changing or something has changed? I mean, we have heard about the whole flying passport situation, and even recently we heard about a case in KLIA having to have a crackdown there. This is not taken lightly, basically. Or is it more than just having to see a change of heads? You have to actually make sure that everybody understands the predicament that we're in terms of human trafficking and smuggling.
To me, personally, Swahili is a critical factor, is the agent of change. But how many people that we have like him?
You can't just rely on one person.
Not one person. I think that we need more people like him, only then we can do the job. He's focusing on, let's say, at the airport, at the border entry, like a formal official border entry. What happened to the non-official? What happened to the border? I mean, we need somebody else too. So we need more people like him, only then we can solve the problem. If he is alone doing it and other people just like, okay, let us wait for the boss, and there's nothing is going to change. And in addition to that, the monetary reward involved, like don't do it, we paid you. Keep silent or slow down the things. Who asked you to do this? So that's the thing. That's the challenge, I think.
In your time, especially during your research, right, have you seen a particular case that is deserving of attention but gets underreported, especially when it comes to smuggling migrants or at least trafficking concerns? Yeah.
There are mention about that, of course. Somebody want to change things, or somebody want to look into this kind of operation. Somebody is going to get asked, like, who asked you to do this? It's not like a directly, a kind of reward or prevent you from doing it. But who asked you to do this? Like, don't worry, I'm taking care of this thing, but whose order that you get it from?
So that must be very difficult for you to even exercise your surveys, I suppose, or interviews, right?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I mean, but anyway, we get the information. We get sometimes we manage to talk to the right people too.
Have you had any serious situations whereby like you are being followed or you are being, surveilled because you know too much?
Not so far. I try to keep a proper distance and try to stop where it's supposed to be. Sometimes we shouldn't know certain things. Sometimes it's dangerous to know a lot of things.
No, because it's very intriguing for me to see how people are able to still keep a focus in certain contentious issues, right? Like,
Yes.
Because we don't know who has a hand in the pie as well.
Yeah,
It's
that's
a
true.
big pie.
It's a big pie, it seems.
Like you said, it's very lucrative. Human trafficking has been a very lucrative syndicate. So, we don't really know who has their hand in the cookie jar.
Yeah.
So that again is another systemic failure when it comes to addressing issues like this.
Yeah.
It's systemic.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
One thing that I noticed is systemic. It requires a lot of attention and effort to change things on the ground. But as I said, we can do it. But to an extent that we want to sacrifice doing it.
No, because when we say the word border control, I mean, we think of fences, patrols, checkpoints.
But it's actually more than that, right?
But at its core, border security, it sits on a tripod like enforcement, governance, regional cooperation. Those are the things that maybe we need to look at. And if one of those legs are wobbling, then everything shakes. But the question isn't just whose responsibility it is. It's whether all the responsible parties are doing
playing
enough.
part. Yeah, doing enough, playing their part, Yeah.
My comment about that is that there is a cooperation, of course. Right now, for example, they set up a new border protection agencies. What we call that?
MCBA.
Yes. So I think
MBCA, MCBA, people get confused, but it's Malaysian Border Control Agency.
yeah, exactly. Just like we have a lot of similar thing, like in the United States, in Australia, and so on. It's a very good move to begin with, but we need manpower, training, resources, especially on the ground. Not at all places, I would say, because at the border, for
You already
example,
identified the hotspots,
yeah,
right?
hotspot, and then along that we need to invest more time, more thing. But we also need to remember, speaking from the culprit point of view, they are also upskilling and upgrading their capabilities too. They use drones,
Yeah.
They use drones to detect the movement.
I mean, I'm not surprised, but
Yeah.
thing is, even drone technology or the utilization of drones, I thought our authorities, or at least CAM,
Yeah.
monitors, like they're able to detect, right? Like if a drone flies within a certain territory or not. Maybe they should have a closed off zone along the border. I'm not too sure. How do
I
they do
believe
that?
they
Like,
do, don't they?
I don't know. It's like,
I'm not sure at this point, but I mean, in the recent research that I come across with, research has been conducted in order to improve these border protection capabilities. And of course, drone cameras, detection capabilities are put in place. But how much that we want to invest and where is it that we want to invest?
But if syndicates are upgrading
with drone
upgrading
technology.
their operations with technology, we can't rely on old tools.
Yeah, we
right,
can't.
Exactly.
We have to step up.
It
Exactly.
needs a lot of, tech-driven monitoring as well. I think
Exactly.
we have to keep up.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Especially on the ground, especially on the border itself, not at the center. I believe that we have the capability, but it is concentrated on the center.
Yeah. I mean,
Not-
yes. It's too
Right.
centralized in that sense.
Exactly. So
Before we go deeper into this discussion, I just want to segue into an earlier interview that I had with Dr. Geshinam Ayu Mat Saad, a criminologist, to talk a little bit about, because we talked about the facility, the makeup, the gaps when it comes to addressing migrant smuggling or human trafficking, but not so much on the psychological effects of the migrants themselves or those being exploited, right? So she gave us a pretty clear understanding of how do you differentiate between migrant smuggling and human trafficking and more. So let's have a look.
The public often lumps everything together, smuggling, trafficking, exploitation. But internationally, the lines are very clearly drawn, at least on paper. But how can we at least differentiate what smuggling is and versus what human trafficking is? Where does the real life situations actually define these two?
To compare between what is human trafficking and migrant smuggling, there are legal definitions that differ in general, globally. Legal framework in Malaysia is different, slightly different. The purpose, why human trafficking is done, why migrant smuggling is done is different. There's about the ethical concern, the issue of consent. We're talking about the means used, and then the victim status, victim precipitation, because these crimes have some form of victim precipitation. There's also the issue of human rights impact. And of course, the 10th difference is on victim-centered response. Now, with regards to the legal definition, when we talk about human trafficking, that involves a wide range of actions, of behaviors, talking about recruitment, transportation, transfer, harboring, keeping them in places where it's difficult for people to find out where these people are placed. And it can even be receiving persons in the destination country, the transit country, for example, by whatever means. It could be the means, could be threat, could be force, could be coercion, it could be fraud, or even abuse in sometimes. Migrant smuggling, on the other hand, is procurement or facilitation of illegal entry by a person into a country for financial or material benefit. So there's a clear difference alone in the legal definition. With regards to the legal framework in Malaysia, human trafficking is, of course, governed by the ATIPSOM Act 2007, which has specific sectors on trafficking, focusing on coercion and exploitation. Now, migrant smuggling is under the same act, but the sections on smuggling emphasize illegal entry and financial gain without the factor of exploitation. So there are clear differences in the legal definition and the purpose of human trafficking, mainly exploitation. Migrant smuggling is crossing borders illegally.
There's a lot of contention to that as well, because I think a lot of simplification also happens when we try to describe migrants and refugees, the oversimplification of things, right? But I like to go into my next question, which you have also already like explained to in the form of like why Malaysia is attractive in that sense. Because the next question is that in some cases, when it comes to the smuggling aspect, they pay about 400 to 500 ringgit, at least in the case of Mat Sero per person, right, to illegally enter our country. And this is just one sort of smuggling network. Of course, this changes with the risk, right? So the higher the risk, the more expensive it is for you to come into Malaysia or cross our border. And with that, we totally understand that there's like an intention and engagement in involving in such criminality lah. But it's easy to judge from afar. I mean, I'm going into this whole human rights context, right? Because sometimes when we zoom in, what drives an individual to even pursue such mannerism or such act is the economic pressure, the psychological stress of where they were, or at least the social obligations that pushes them to conduct such act.
It's not just the economic vulnerabilities. It's not just because they are in extreme poverty, for example. Now, these vulnerabilities, if we talk about economic vulnerabilities alone, there are subsections. So it's extreme poverty, unemployment or underemployment. It can be debt pressure, economic inequality, and collapse of local economy. These are the 5 subsections under economic vulnerabilities that individuals or families face. Let's say, for example, their country is having all 5 or one of the 5, that can be enough to prompt an individual to find greener pastures, meaning coming to other countries where they think that these vulnerabilities is no longer an issue for them. Psychological vulnerabilities, this includes, for example, desperation. It can be that they feel helpless or hopeless in their home country. They have a risk-taking mindset. They see the being smuggled as an adventure, something to look forward to before going into another country. So instead of using the proper channels of getting a visa, getting a passport, which is not that expensive, they perceive that being smuggled is more fun, more entertaining, more risky, and more thrilling. Fortunately, we have people like that. Another issue of psychological vulnerabilities, we're talking about conflict. We're talking about the trauma that people face as a survivor of conflict or abuse. So there's anxiety in staying in their home environment, in their hometown, maybe in their region, and this what it prompts them to get away from that psychological trauma by moving into a perceived safer country. Now, we also have social vulnerabilities, for example, the family pressure. So maybe people in villages have ideas, get news that staying in Malaysia is better. You might be in not a nice house, maybe, but it's safer for you to survive. And whatever monies you get, you can give it back home to help reduce the family pressure, for example. Yeah, so social vulnerability is there. It can be community groups, that if you from a village get to go to Malaysia, for example, that's a sign of success.
Huh.
You're working
Faham?
overseas,
Yeah.
for example.
But anyway, yeah,
Mm.
I just want to go into the next question because, okay, within this particular context, right, to follow up after that, right, Mitchell, because, okay,
Yep.
you're working overseas, you're getting better economic sort of like
Mm-mm.
opportunities. The grass is always greener sort of approach,
Yep.
right? But then within the context of like whenever raids happen, and especially in the current case, the recent case, ni,
Mm. Mm.
a 5-year-old child was found
Mm.
among detainees.
Mm.
And this is not the
Mm.
only time situations like this had happened.
Right.
But what does it actually tell you about the risk of
Mm.
a family-based smuggling? I mean, and at least to authorities, right? What kind of
Mm.
psychological or safety concerns should they prioritize, especially when dealing with situations like this?
When families go together being smuggled, there's a huge risk of them being separated. So one will end up in one country, another one will be end up in another country, for example. So it makes it very difficult because later, if we want to help them, we need to find out, for example, where are the other family members? So some NGOs, some, like whether Red Crescent Society, Red Cross Society, all these agencies, international bodies, have a lot of trouble trying to reconnect family members. So they're already separated or threatened to be separated en route to the destination country. So authorities need to consider that this could be possibly an issue that needs to be addressed to make families meet together. Okay, so that another issue is, of course, distrust of authorities. Instead of seeing authority coming to help them, they see authorities as people who are going to cause harm, because the narrative made by the smugglers themselves is that authorities will hurt you.
Can we look at like why do even locals get involved in situations like this? Is it because of the monetary aspect, a lot to gain? But you know, even if it's money, you would think that it's too high risk, right? And you're involving yourself in an area whereby like you can become a smuggler one day, but the next day, even you know, you're the predator, but you can become prey.
So these individuals, when they face situations where there is risk involved, especially high risk, yeah, when uncertainty is part of the job, whereby they don't know what's going to happen hour to hour, day to day, the nature of the job, the nature of the job is complex. That's what they go for. So despite having a potentially safe work possibility, a job, say for example, as an accountant, they don't want that type of job. It's considered like too safe for them. They don't want to become a teacher. Yeah, they don't want to be the traditional jobs offering that people typically get. They don't want to become a lawyer. They don't want that type of job. They want jobs that have elements of thrill seeking, sensation seeking, always on the move, adventure. So they not only romanticize it, they see it as this is my job. So when it's seen as a job, they don't have empathy. They lack a good normal relationship, good ties with people who they smuggle. So that's number one. Yeah. Number two, another type of people who don't mind getting involved with smuggling of people or even trafficking of individuals, yeah, is that they see it as a form of charity. A charity whereby, for example, a neighboring country, if they're facing conflict, I'm doing this out of the goodness of my heart to save people from that country that has conflict, come into Malaysia. It's safer. So they see it as doing something good. So the third type of individuals, a group of people who do get involved, is the opportunistic person. They don't really have a steady job. And because they don't have a steady job, the salaries that they get is sporadic. So it could be 200 here, 100 there, 500 there. It's not enough. The job of smuggling is also sporadic. So it can be between jobs or part of the job itself. So you get three types of people, generally speaking, that do get themselves involved with smuggling activities.
Right now, that's Dr. Gashina Mat Said, giving us a clear picture between smuggling versus trafficking. So one key thing, basically, there's a lot of considerations, but one is intentional, the other one is not. The other one's got gain, the other one is more of like I'm being exploited, right? But in this particular Mat Sero situation, and I'm sure many others, there were children involved. So
Yeah.
in this situation where family-based smuggling is put to center, to what extent do we penalize the child who may not even have a say in being part of it, the smuggling aspect, contributing to being part of the journey?
Well, I don't think the child is being specifically penalized.
But in reality, it seems like that.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's being penalized because the parent were penalized. It is penalized because they've been put in prison, for example, together with the child. Unfortunately, there is no choice then, because the kids needs to be together with the mother, for example, or with the parent. So they're caught in a very difficult situation then.
We are talking about real people, families having to make impossible choices sometimes because they can't leave their child behind if they're coming in search of a better
Yeah,
life.
exactly.
So when survival becomes a priority, then danger becomes negotiable by the looks of it.
That's a bit
Yeah.
saddening, lah. Like danger becomes something negotiable, right?
They are willing to go through in order to search. But it's interesting that you just had the discussion about
Dr.
the
Krishna.
difference between human trafficking and
Smuggling. But they don't also exist in a vacuum. Sometimes overlap because when it comes to the network, right, it's like layers, phases and phases. So to one extent, it is smuggling, and then towards the end, it's like an full-on exploitation because you don't even go to the destination.
Yeah.
You end up being exploited for other things, for your
Yes.
organs, for
Yeah.
other things, for labor, in addition to, So it is a very scary and grey
Oh, definitely.
scenario.
But I think for those people, from the perspective of the victims, I would say, those people who are willing to take the risk of going over the border and being exposed to these kind of practices, they are willing to take the risk. And they are willing to sacrifice their life sometimes. It is very unfortunate. But you see here, if you look at in the broader perspective, it's all about survival. And it's all about searching for a better life. And this is common throughout the world. You can see this thing happen in Europe. For example, people migrating from Northern Africa go over to Europe, crossing the seas. You can see this thing happen in the Northern America. Mexican people from Latin America went over to the United States, brought together. That's why there was a big problem during Trump administration, separating the children from the mother.
I mean, right now it's happening there. Like ICE is coming down on these, basically, families who have like migrants, basically,
Exactly.
right? But
Yes.
there's a question of, is it right? Is it right to separate families?
If you look at from the legal perspective, especially in the United States, they're going to say that, if you are with a child driving the car, you get into trouble with the police will arrest you. Yeah, you will leave your kids. It's a similar situation. And in that particular case, in the US, for example, by crossing the border illegally, you're committing an offense already. So
it makes you a criminal. So a criminal cannot be
No,
exempted
because
from
the-
mercy. Oh
the
my God.
children
Yeah.
who are born in the United States and they become citizens, by birth, but then the parents are
apparently
illegal.
not.
So-
Yeah.
But then, okay, this question, right? It's a question of the 21st century because, again, in the past, human migration is looked at very differently today because
Historically.
borders because
Right.
today borders are defined,
Yeah.
right? And each country has its governing laws.
Yeah.
So you have to abide by that. We totally understand. But then we have human considerations at play as well, like they're escaping persecution. They are finding economic opportunity.
Yes.
Like the grass is greener on the other side. Also, it's to the extent of, I think Dr. Krishna did mention this as well, because it's the liberty of not having enough education to understand that when you go to another country, your understanding of the local law might not apply overseas.
Right.
Macam it's like your right to seek for a job overseas, but not understanding the context of what that destination has, the legalities of that destination. So it's
it is a very complex situation. I mean,
Very.
yes, we are addressing a smuggling and
you see.
exploitation
Yes.
and all that. But at the same time, I mean, you are a purveyor of history, and you have seen in your research over the years, that people have naturally migrated in search of a better life.
Yeah, that's why I say it is a tip of an iceberg. I spoke to one of those people who migrated and said, "What motivated you to come over here, and you're willing to take the risk?" And he said that, I was told that the security is not really high over there, so we can just cross over there. So it is about this perception of security. If they feel that our security is not that good or is not that high, they're willing to take the risk.
And for as long as we have that sort of imagery,
Yeah.
then this problem will still persist.
Exactly.
We will still be facing with an influx of migrants being smuggled, and to some extent, probably they want to go. We're just the transit sort of area. They're going somewhere else, but we have to bear whatever consequences because something happened here, or at least there's a hub here.
Again, I think like cross-border cooperation and between governments and things like that, because it, like you said, tip of the iceberg, but beneath the sea, it's a huge, it's a huge
chunk of
area,
things,
mass
yeah.
area that needs to be addressed, right?
Yeah.
So, what are your thoughts about that? Like, what do we need to do further in terms of cooperating with countries, in terms of, addressing the larger issue at hand?
There are a couple of things that we can do to begin with. Number one is to strengthen the local law enforcement agency. I think that's the starting point because they are the frontliners. Equip them with the right capabilities, right training, right knowledge, right manpower, with enough manpower, resources. Invest a lot in these borders, law enforcement, interagency cooperation. I think that would change things, number one. And of course, strengthening the border protection also with the establishment of this interagency. I think it is a very good strategy to do so. What I can see right now is that you cannot solve everything, but you have to do certain thing. And that certain thing might move to a bigger change. So that's why I recommend a need to be a lot of empowerment at the local agencies.
So, a lot of empowerment at the local agency first before we're able to tell other people, meaning other people here, other nations, how to do their jobs.
Exactly.
Because that will be my question.
That's
do you
right.
think Malaysia is strong enough to put a pressure on our neighbors to also look at how the rings that exist within their own terrain? For instance, okay, let's not talk about Thailand. Thailand's a lot of issues already going on.
Yeah.
But Myanmar, I mean, our people also go there for a job. I mean, they actually go somewhere else, but ended up in Myanmar
Right.
because of a scam. So, yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. Like you're gonna go and find the job in there. While at the same time, you can see that a lot of people are coming here to look for a job.
So you're saying that we also have to be smart with our decisions as well.
I mean, our people also need to be well informed about what's going on because they can be exposed to exploitation. So whenever we strengthen ourselves, like at the border, then we can reach out to other nations also to help, because they have other priorities, and even though we have a framework, for example, ASEAN framework in terms of the human trafficking, so we do have it. We have a strong framework in ASEAN addressing this issue, but it is based on reciprocal what they call.
Approaches.
Gestures on approach. You do this, I do that, and
it's like you buat ni, I bayar you ni, or you buat ni, you get this.
Yeah.
It's a win-win buttering situation.
Yeah. So if they are not willing to do it, then you cannot achieve the goal. The problem still persists, and I guess they also doesn't really care. Like, oh, you want to go over there? Yes, go ahead. So there is no an attempt, really serious attempt to stop it. Just go. And what is more, our country is a kind of heaven, For them, Malaysia is a heaven. People are friendly. The life is wonderful here. I mean, from their perspective, really, really much better than they are willing to take the risk of coming here.
Okay.
How do we balance, right? Because we want to, of course, increase enforcement and things like that, protect our borders and all that. How do we balance that with compassion as well for those who have come here, who are exploited, who who are probably escaping a tough life for
Economic
wherever they
hardships,
come.
maybe not economic hardships,
Yeah.
like other things.
Even
as well.
war and economic kind of famine or hunger, whatever, right? And how do we balance protecting the borders and keeping, keeping migrant human smuggling at the same time the people who are here who are being exploited? And I mean, what are your views about that? And how do we, as a nation, balance this?
The way I see it is actually more a division of labor. There are agencies who take care of the security, law enforcement agencies taking care of that aspect. But at the same time, we also have a certain civil society organization or NGOs who is taking care of them, giving them shelter, food, medicine, education, and so on. Rohingya people, for example, here, they're under the care of very good NGOs, as well as other people like Palestine and other immigrant. That's why they love to come here, and they're willing to fly over here. And not only people from that side of the world, from Myanmar, from Vietnam, from Cambodia, and so on, but people from, say, Middle East, from Africa, and from around the region, converge here.
Doctor,
Yeah.
before we end this, right? Because just to segue, or at least to spin off what you just said, why was it easier for us to accommodate migrants or asylum seekers back in the days as compared to now? Back in the days, what I'm saying is that, the Vietnamese migrants, the Cambodian migrants, why was it better for us to integrate them in our society? Why is it better for us to accept them? Because I do know people who have been third, fourth generation of these individuals, but their history is not so different than what we're seeing today, the Rohingyas today. You get what I mean?
Yeah.
Why is there this double standards?
I don't see it's a double standard. What I see is that influx of immigrants. Before, it was a legitimate issues or cases. There was war in the Indochina during that time, in the 70s, 80s. They really want to run from their country and save themselves and coming here, living here, and establish their family here. But right now, I would say, is the economic migration, if we can use the term. They want to go out from their country because of economic opportunities to improve their life. Maybe some legitimate issues as well, of course, like in Rohingya, they've been facing persecution and so on. Yeah.
And Myanmar itself is under the junta.
Yeah.
I mean, Myanmar is apart from
Yes.
the Rohingyas,
Yeah.
right? I mean, you got the Myanmars having to address
Yeah.
the Rohingyas, and then now you've got the junta there, so it's a bit
Yeah.
complex more.
That's right. So they migrated because of the economic opportunities. They want to live a better life. Same goes to in the United States. I think there is no war in the Latin America, but they want to seek for a better life. So countries who can provide that in this region, who? They want to go to Indonesia? They want to go to Singapore? Maybe they wanted to go there, but the security is there is so high.
It goes back to your point.
Yes, and so Malaysia is a good choice.
Okay. We talked about the current predicament that's happened within Malaysia and more, but as you know how the discussion transpired, I think by the end of this you'll also understand how it's not just straightforward, right, when it comes to migrant smuggling as well as trafficking. What we do know is that today this situation is widespread, and if the attention is not zeroed in soon, then probably we'll be at a position whereby we cannot control it anymore. Do you think it's under control? I mean, honestly speaking, do you think it's under control?
I think at this point it is still under control, but I think if we don't control it, it's going to pose a bigger challenge to us in future. The decision that we take today is going to give us, I mean, we can see the implication of that 5-10 years later. So we have to remember that those people who are in charge today, in power today, they have to make right decision. So make a right decision in terms of the strengthening the borders and taking a proper action to make sure that this doesn't cause us a bigger problem in future, social problems, crimes, and so on. Just like what the United States is facing and European countries now is facing with the immigrant and so on, because it's not well thought out policy, I would say. We have to think properly on this.
I think we're already seeing that bits and pieces of it, especially transpiring on social media. And but what we don't want is that leading to another social riot.
Exactly.
And being, I mean, one issue is being conflated with the next, and it becomes something else, and that's what we don't want lah at the end of the day. Unfortunately, that's the end of this particular discussion. But before we send off, I do want to highlight a little bit about what has been breaking today. At least today, when you're watching this episode, it's already one day ahead. And it's supposed to be Syed Saddiq's final day of having to hear in federal court for his appeal. It's set to be having a verdict today. If it's not today, it will be set another day.
So exactly. So the Court of Appeal had acquitted him earlier, saying that the evidence didn't support the charges. So now the question is whether the federal court will uphold the acquittal or reinstate the 7-year jail term, 10 million fine, and 2 strokes of the rotan.
Let's be real. That's a heavy sentence. And I think Syed Saddiq himself, prior to on Wednesday, he did post something on social media saying that it's been a very long and hardest journey, and and he is ready to see the end of it. However, we're not necessarily parking a ticket just yet because the stakes are definitely high. His political career.
So if the acquittal stands, then Syed Saddiq walks free, vindicated, and it could strengthen, his political narrative. But if the conviction is reinstated, he risks losing his seat, his political future, of course, and it sends a strong message about accountability, especially for youth leaders in political parties.
Yeah, and at the heart of this case are charges of criminal breach of trust, misuse of funds, and money laundering linked to Armada. Well, the DPP has reinstated the fact that Syed Saddiq is the mastermind behind the fund transfer. So I suppose once you've watched this episode, you'll know the verdict. And if it's not yet, then tune in to NSC Online because we'll be following on the developments. Actually, I wanted to say earlier, even if he would lose his political standing or his, maybe stature, hopefully the love interest will not be lost lah.
Yes. And by the way, love interest was there today.
Was there?
Yes,
okay,
yes.
cool.
Cool. She who shall not be named.
Yes. But it's nice to see the support around him.
Nice,
The other aspect of it is nice to see the support around him. I think in the earlier months, we saw his family also being there by him. So this is something that we are zeroing in and they're putting a magnifying glass daily. If not daily, it's by the hour.
So we're all waiting with bated breath to see whether he will walk into the sunset happy, or he will walk into jail.
The other set.
With caning and more.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Anyway, well, it's nice to talk about criminal liability in this particular context. But yes, if you do like this episode, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell if you haven't already. And you'll not only get NSC Beyond the Headlines update, other NSC Online's news report will be delivered to you. Now, once again, I'd like to thank our guest on set for our earlier segment, a very insightful segment, Dr. Ahmad Al-Muhammadi. Thank you so much for being on the show.
My pleasure.
And thank you to Elena for being my lovely co-host.
Absolutely, it was fun.
It was fun, right? This particular topic. Fun in a very
deep and thoughtful way.
Yeah,
yes.
I learned something. I learned a lot as well. Yes, and to our audience, don't forget to follow us on our social media. We're everywhere: Facebook, Instagram, X, Threads, as well as TikTok. My name is Amalina Kamal, and I'll see you next week.